Good morning. Today we are talking about serial killer Rhonda Bell Martin. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard to show you all these pictures and get it straight on this camera, but that's her. Sweet looking young grandma, 49 at her execution. She killed 6 people. Of course, this was poison again to collect insurance money. The date of her murders were from 1937 and 1951. The date of her arrest was 1956. She was born in 1907. Victims on profile: Emma Jean Garrett, her 3-year-old daughter; George Garrett, her second husband; Anna Carolyn Garrett, her 6-year-old daughter; Ellen Elizabeth Garrett, her 11-year-old daughter; Miss Mary Frances Gibbon, her mother; and Claude Carroll Martin, 51, her 4th husband. Her method of murder, of course, was poisoning through arsenic. She's located in Montgomery County, Alabama. She was executed by electrocution in Alabama on October the 11th, 1957. She killed her mother, 2 of her husbands, 3 of her children in Birmingham, Alabama. She was eventually foiled by the results of an autopsy and confessed to the crimes, of course, like I said, given the electric chair. She was a 49-year-old waitress in Montgomery, Alabama. And let's see what else I can tell you. She was a hefty auburn-haired waitress who killed her 4th husband with arsenic, was sentenced to die in the electric chair. Miss Rhonda Bell Martin, 41, and 170 pounds, admitted killing Claude C. Martin and other members of her family, but she was tried only for the death of her 4th husband. Her other victims were 3 daughters, her mother, and another husband. A jury of 12 men deliberated 3 hours and 10 minutes, convicting her of poisoning Martin after about a year of being married. When the verdict was read, she buried her head in her arms and sobbed. Now let's see. Under questioning, Ms. Rhonda was vague on her motive for a string of killings, but detectives learned that she collected insurance money on each of the victims in turn. She denied the slaying of 2 other children, whose deaths were also the subject of investigation. Her husband was 51, Claude Martin, at the time of his death. Her last meal was hamburger, mashed potatoes, cinnamon rolls, and coffee. A few minutes after midnight, she was strapped in the chair and asked if she had anything to say. She shook her head silently. The switch was thrown, and Miss Rhonda Bell stiffened while the electric entered her body, and then she was pronounced dead. There was another article written. It says, according to Circuit Solicitor William Thetford, she fed ant poison once to her stepson. He is still alive, though he is paralyzed. Excuse me, let me answer this phone and I will be back. One of the situations, Ms. Martin was vague about the motive for her killings, but she told of having insurance on all 6 of the victims who died. The amount was not disclosed, but Thetford said that she recalled receiving between Claude Martin. Now, she married Martin's son just 8 months after the death of his father. That is very strange and weird. I do not know anything about that relationship. It's just odd. She did leave a note. She said, "At my death, whether it be natural death or otherwise, I want my body to be given to some scientific institution to be used as they see fit, but especially to see if someone can find out why I committed the crimes I committed. I can't understand it, for I have no reason whatsoever. There is definitely something wrong with me. Can't someone find it and save someone else the agony I have been through?" The condemned woman was strapped in the chair at 12:07 a.m. and received 2,200 volts of electricity 3 minutes later after a false start. When the switch was thrown the first time, it was discovered the electrodes had not been plugged into the chair and the task had been repealed. There's information from the Supreme Court of Alabama on March the 14th, 1957. So you can check out that information online as well. She had collected $2,750 on 3 insurance policies upon her husband's death. So she had multiple policies out on him. That's really all I have about that. She did say it's a type of insanity where a person loses contact with realization. In other words, they have no control over their actions. They're not sure. She wasn't sure if she had schizophrenia or not. She just said she didn't know what made her kill anybody. So that's a very interesting one as well. She seemed to be, a very sweet, loving person as well, just like some of our other ones. She kind of had that same demeanor about her. And then the other one that we're going over is the ant killer. Her name was Earle Dennison. She was poisoned to collect the insurance money. Her victims there were about 2 of them. She was 55, living in Elmore County at the time of her execution. The one victim we do know of was 2-year-old Shirley Weldon, who was her niece. The date of her arrest was 7 days after the murder. And of course, arsenic. She was executed by electrocution at Kilby Prison in 1953. No one wept for Miss Dennison. The number of murderers put to death since the United States reinstated the death penalty in 1976 was now topped to 1,000. Since journalists like to have the news hook, the occasion has resulted in a plethora of stories about the death penalty in theory and practice in the United States. It seems that public opinion is slipping a bit, and polls show that support for the death sentence has dropped from 4 in 5 Americans to 2 or 3, but it's still a clear majority. And it's stories is like this of Shirley Diane Weldon. Let's see. It's hard for the mother of a little 2.5-year-old boy to write about the murderess such as Miss Earle Dennison, the 16th woman executed by the state of Alabama. The very fact that she was the first white woman ever executed in Alabama tells you she did something perfectly awful and horrible to contemplate. She was a widow and a surgical nurse. She worked at the Wetumpka General Hospital for more than 25 years. Her late husband had a sister who also had a husband and a little girl named Shirley and a boy named Orville. Shirley was a little over 2 years when Aunt Earle paid an early afternoon call to the humble farmhouse in Royal Elmore County in 1952. During the visit, Aunt Killer gave little Shirley an orange drink that included a substance that is very bad for little girls. When Shirley began to vomit, Aunt Earle gave her a bottle of Coca-Cola that was laced with something. Shirley became terribly sick, and her mother insisted on rushing her to the hospital. When it appeared that the little girl was gravely ill and would die, Aunt Earle left the hospital. She drove 20 miles to the home of an insurance agent. There, she paid the premium for a life insurance policy she had taken out on her niece. The policy was about to lapse. Aunt Earle, you see, had insured little Shirley for $6,500. In 1952, that was about enough money to buy 3 nice new cars. A few hours after the policy on her life was renewed, Shirley Weldon died. An autopsy revealed the presence of arsenic, which was also found in the cup and the Coca-Cola bottle out of which the little girl drank. Arsenic was also found on the dress worn by the girl's mother and aunt, where Shirley had vomited. Now, the existence of the insurance policies were discovered in a matter of days, and Earle Dennison took an overdose of sleeping pills and was unconscious when she was arrested. Her life was salvaged at the hospital, and therefore she confessed on several occasions and in writing to having murdered her niece. Dennison was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. The Alabama Supreme Court unanimously affirmed the decision, and she was executed in an electric chair, again, like I said, on September the 4th, 1953. Her last words were, "Please forgive me for everything I did. I forgive everybody." From the date that Earle Dennison murdered Shirley to the date of her execution was 1 year, 4 months, and 3 days. Justice was swift for confessed child murderers in 1953. Many more swift than it is today. And in every case was as clear as the Dennison case and the awful to contemplate. One has to wonder whether public support for the death penalty wouldn't be stronger. Trying to see what else. She had severe convulsions and obvious pain. Also, Polly Ann was a baby girl that had, where a mother had given birth just hours after Polly Ann died. No one suspected foul play when Polly Ann died, and the matter was simply put down to tragic event that would forever mar the celebration of the Sydney's birthdays. Immediately after Shirley's death, Cora Bell and her husband Gaston suspected foul play. In their eyes, that was one consistent factor in the death of their daughters, so they demanded an autopsy. There was overwhelming indications that the girl was poisoned. Heavy metal poisoning leaves a number of readily visible signs, and they had all those signs. So that's why they think that she committed 2 murders. Eventually, investigators learned that she had taken out $5,500, which is about $42,000 in 2006. It would have been worth about $42,000. So probably looking at about $60,000 in today's time period. But at the time, I mean, she was dead. There was nothing they could do about it. They couldn't charge her again. But they made the news. Baby poisoner to die tonight. They took her picture and plastered it all over everything to let everybody know. So they named her the baby poisoner. And let's see, she died at Kilby Prison, like I said. And of course the governor said, God bless Miss Dennison's soul. She had a last minute plea, have mercy on me, save my life. She just didn't care at the time. So you can check up information on these. Like I said, look online. You'll find information. You can also go to Murderpedia. It tells you about all kinds of murders and different. You can search it by name, male or female. There's other websites as well that tell you about them. But those are just some of the notorious 5 women in the state of Alabama. If y'all are interested in learning about more, please let me know, and I will get with you, and we'll talk about some more women all through up into concurrent to today's timing. We'll definitely do that. All right, guys, I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you later.